Okay, so it's working. Hopefully I can find it when I'm done. Okay, cool. We're recording. We are live. It's glitchy. Okay, it's bone healing. We've talked about fractures. We looked at the x-rays. We identified bones and bone fractures by looking at x-rays. And now it's time to look at how bones heal. Bones are super cool in their healing, in that they are the only tissue in our body that can heal with no evidence that it was ever broken in the first place or damaged. It can be 100% remade new because bones are alive, bones are organs, and they are always remodeling themselves based on your lifestyle. Okay, there are 4 stages to bone healing. I'm going to draw them like this. Stage 1 in chronological order, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, saving room in the middle for a little review.
We're going to draw that?
Yes, ma'am. Broken bones. Okay, what color should we start with? Red? Okay, red, orange, and pink are out because we got to have blood. Okay.
Light blue.
Light blue. All right. So step 1, I'm just going to go up here to the top left corner for step 1, which is called a fracture. That's a broken bone. Hematoma. Y'all know what a hematoma is? If you use your med term.
Hema?
Yeah, hema. What's that mean?
Half. I can write.
Hema or hemato? Hemata? What's that mean?
Oma means tumor, right?
Oma means tumor or a body. Yeah. What's hema mean? Hemato.
Hemato.
Like hematocrit. We talked about that once in one of our units. No? Hema means blood, or hemata means blood, so there's a blood tumor or blood body. It's a blood clot. So that's the first thing that happens, is blood vessels run through our bones, and so when you break a bone, there's going to be bleeding, and so that has to clot. All right, so what we're going to draw first is a bone that's broken, just a section of the bone that's broken, and we have it cut on a longitudinal plane so we can see the inside. So here's how we draw it. I'm going to draw 4 lines like this. And see they're kind of staggered where they end right here. I leave a little more space there. Like that. Okay, now I'm going to connect these up at the top like this. I'm going to make half circles to connect the inners and the outers. Like that. See there, it's all 3D. Okay, this end is broken, so I'll make it all jagged. Like that. And then we have the bottom part of the bone. It's all broken too. There we go, a broken bone. Pretty easy, right? Y'all hip to that? Okay, good. So now we need blood vessels. This is why red is off limits, because we do have blood vessels running through our bone. This area right here is called the medullary cavity, and it's where yellow bone marrow exists. Yellow bone marrow is mostly fat for fat storage. But there are blood vessels and nerves that run through here too. In fact, the blood vessels and nerves run through this compact bone as well. But they'd be so small we wouldn't be able to draw them. They'd be microscopically small. So we just need to draw in a few blood vessels. You can kind of have them disappearing into the bone. But look, up here, as the bone broke, the vessels got ripped as well. Ouch. So see, we've got some bleeding that will occur right here because of these damaged blood vessels. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to color in this whole area with blood because it's bleeding. And hopefully you remember from our discussions on blood way back in the day, first semester, that we have cellular components in our blood called platelets or thrombocytes. And their job is to form a blood clot so that we don't bleed to death when we get an injury. And so what platelets do when we get an injury is they get sticky, and they stick to the injury site and create like a little dam or a little blockade and slow the flow of blood. And we've already talked about that way back with the cardiovascular unit. There's also fibrinogen a protein that floats around in the plasma of our blood. And when we get an injury, the proteins unravel into a long, thin strand and create like a net or a spider web, a mesh, that catches the blood as it's flowing by to slow down the flow of blood. And then red blood cells themselves get sticky and all stick to each other. That's called coagulation, and form kind of like a blood pudding-like consistency that gets really thick and gel-like. And that's called a hematoma. That right there, we got a hematoma now, which is a blood clot or a bruise. Okay, so it's a clot of blood. The blood is kind of solidified. So what we see associated with this stage of fracture is really early on, right after you break your bone, is a lot of bleeding. And then as the bleeding goes on, the blood starts to slow and coagulate and forms a hematoma, which is a blood clot. And that's really important. Now, this is not strong. This is just a blood clot. This is like, hair gel consistency or something. This is not like you're not going to walk on this or anything. But this will, as long as everything is very still, kind of sort of start to hold the bone pieces together aligned with each other so the bone can heal. This clot, now this is really a wide range, but on average about 6 to 8 hours after the injury is when you'll form a hematoma. Of course, if it's just a tiny little fracture, it may clot up in a few minutes. But if it's a really bad fracture and then you don't treat it right, you keep walking around on a broken ankle or something, then it may take longer. But normally this occurs about 6 to 8 hours after the injury. That's quite a long time to be bleeding. Okay, associated with the fracture hematoma is inflammation. So this is, swelling, redness, heat, pain, because these blood vessels in the area are going to dilate to bring more blood to the area so that we can, bring in white blood cells, we can bring in nutrition, get this thing all healed up. And it will last from days to weeks, depending on the severity of it and how well you treat it. The goal here is, once we're done, if you break a bone, hopefully you don't, but if you do, or if you know somebody who does, and you know how long ago the injury occurred, you can kind of tell them what's going on in their body. Any questions about the fracture hematoma stage? Okay, what color should we use for stage 2 then? Purple. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom out so you can see like how big my drawing is and where I'm going. I'm going to go right over here to the top right corner of my page for stage 2, which is called the fibrocartilaginous callus. Oops. I did that right. Okay, that's a big word, fibrocartilaginous. A callus is like your body's natural splint or cast after you break a bone. It forms around the bone and supports it while the bone is healing. This callus is made of fibrocartilage, mostly. Fibrocartilage is the same stuff that your ear is made of. The floppy part of your ear and the end of your nose that's all floppy and bendy, okay, is made out of fibrocartilage. So you can tell, it holds its shape. I can move my ear around and it goes back to where it's supposed to be. But it's not strong, right? It's not strong. Again, this is not supporting body weight. If this is in a leg, you're not walking around on this leg without creating more injury. So it's a real bendy, delicate splint that your body's going to make. So what we have to do is we're going to redraw our broken bone. We want it to look just like the other one, if we can. As much like the other one as possible. There's the top of my bone. Trying to draw it all like the same size. Alrighty, cool. We want to redraw the blood vessels as well. However, one of the first things that happens at this stage is, remember last time the blood vessels were broken? One of the first things that happens in this stage is the blood vessels heal. We can regrow new blood vessels. And this goes for any time in your life. If you decide you're going to start running or exercising, your body will grow new blood vessels to supply those muscles with the oxygen, the new oxygen demands. So these blood vessels have healed. They can regrow. And not only that, but we will grow new blood vessels as well. This whole space is going to get full of blood vessels because we need for them to carry away any messes that are there. We need for them to be able to bring in nutrients and white blood cells and things like that. They're going to help this bone heal up. So we're really going to fill this in with some blood vessels, and that's one of the first things that happens after we break a bone is new blood vessels grow and kind of fill in this area so we can get good blood supply to it while it's healing. And then what's going to happen is bone cells called osteoblasts and cartilage cells called fibroblasts are going to move in, and they're going to create a callus, a soft callus. I'll go ahead and label it. Remember, a callus is like your body's natural splint. A soft callus, which is made of fibrocartilage, the same stuff your ear is made of, your outer ear, your pinna, is what that's called, and spongy bone. So spongy bone, I remember where's my cow bones? Spongy bone is, it looks spongy. It's not the hard, dense, compact bone. It looks like a sponge. So I have this cow bone here. So right here we can see the hard, compact bone out on the side. This is dense, compact bone. That's what that is. But inside here, see how it looks spongy? It looks different, like it's got little holes in it, because it does. This is spongy bone. So this is the stuff that's going to be creating this callus around the injury of our bone. It's going to be this bone, not the bone that it once was. Yet. It will eventually be, but for now, it is spongy bone and fibrocartilage. So that means we don't really have to do an awesome job coloring it in with purple. We can do like a halfway job because, well, the body's doing kind of a halfway job right now. So as you can see, I'm not really coloring it in uniformly with the blue like I did with the red, with the blood. Just kind of doing some scribble scrabble. And this is made of spongy bone and fibrocartilage, the soft callus. All right, so what we see in the fibrocartilaginous callus, this is a few days to a few weeks after the injury is when this happens, is new blood vessels start to grow first. So we have to get healthy blood supply to it. And then the cells that move in, the bone cells, osteo means bone, and a blast is a juvenile cell. So an osteoblast is a juvenile bone cell. We'll write about that later. They form spongy bone. Spongy bone is also called trabecular bone. It's also called cancellous bone. 3 different names for the same thing. Osteoblasts are going to form spongy bone around here, which is a loose trellis-like network of bone. And this lasts about 3 weeks. And what we've done is we formed this soft callus of spongy bone and fibrocartilage. And again, this is not super strong. This is not as strong as the original bone. This is pretty weak. You should not be walking around on this, or if it's in your arm, picking anything up with this. But it is going to hold these bone ends together while it's healing, as long as too much strain is not placed on it. That's why we put you in a cast and have people walk around on crutches or one of those knee rollers, because this is not strong enough yet. You can feel this. If this is near the skin, if it's, not embedded in muscle like a femur or something, if it's close to the skin, you can feel this bump. You can see this in x-rays and everything. Okay, so several important cells are really active during this time. They are osteoblasts, which I've already written, and these make bone. They're juvenile bone cells. But we also have cells called osteoclasts with a C. And these dissolve bone. Osteoblasts and osteoclasts work opposite of each other. These make bone, these dissolve bone. And so when we broke our bone, maybe some little broken pieces, little fragments of bone were in there, chipped off or something. So these osteoclasts are going to dissolve those, and the bone will be recycled. The material will be recycled and used for something else, and maybe for regrowing the bone. We also have fibroblasts. Just like osteoblasts make bone, fibroblasts make collagen and elastin, which is what our cartilage is made out of. The fibrocartilage is made from the fibroblasts. They're cells. And then we also have phagocytes. And you should know about phagocytes. Does anybody remember those? We talked about phagocytes in the cardiovascular system and the immune system. Do you remember what these are? Anybody? No? Phagocytes are a type of white blood cell, and they roam around looking for messes and trouble. They roam around the body looking for dead cells. They'll eat up any dead human cells, damaged human cells, and clean up the messes. They'll look for any bacteria that got in there, especially if this is an open wound, right? If this bone pierced the skin, phagocytes are going to come in and try to fight off any bacteria that made it in. So these are part of our immune system. Okay. Any questions about the fibrocartilaginous callus stage? We're like 3 to 4, maybe 5 weeks in, depending on how bad the injury is. On average, about 3 to 4 weeks in at the end of this stage. All right, cool. We're going to move on to stage 3, which is the bony callus stage. What color should I use for that? Green. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to zoom back out. There's my Madrolrins. I'm going to move over here for stage 3. Which is the bony callus stage. So we had a fibrocartilaginous callus, but now that fibrocartilage is going to be replaced by bone, making it stronger. We're going to redraw our broken bone again. There we go. We're going to redraw in our blood vessels, including the new vessels that we grew. It looks like Christmas. It looks like the Grinch. Grinchmas. Grinchmas in April. All right, there we go. And so what's going to happen here is, instead of this soft callus, which we have currently, made of fibrocartilage and spongy bone, this stuff's going to get replaced over time by a hard bony callus, which is much stronger. In fact, midway through or so this stage, this bone will be functional again. We'll be able to use this bone. It's during this stage that a cast would get removed and you'd be able to get off of your crutches or out of a boot or whatever. This bone is not going to be fully healed back to normal during this stage, but it is a fully functional bone, a body part that can be used, can support body weight during this stage. And again, we've got this swollen area around it. That's the callus, right? This material goes beyond the bone to help support it, keep it strong. While the doctor may have cut your artificial external cast off, your body still has its natural internal cast. That's pretty cool. Okay, so what's happening here is woven bone. That's what it's called. It's still not the original compact bone. It's called woven bone, which is a hard bone, harder than the spongy bone, is replacing the fibrocartilage. This starts about after 3 weeks. 3 to 4 weeks, depending on various things, how bad the injury is, how old you are, how healthy you are, how good you're taking care of it. And will last months. This lasts 3 to 4 months. And during this time, the bone is just getting stronger, it's getting harder. And we can call it a functional bone. It's not fully recovered, but it is a functional bone. And the primary cell at work here is the osteoblast, bringing in and making new bone. Okay, any questions about the bony callus stage? The fourth stage is bone remodeling, and it's quite a lot different looking. We're not going to draw a broken bone anymore. It's going to be a healed bone, a fully healed bone. So we don't need all this callus and blood vessels and stuff, so we can bring in other colors now, reds and oranges. Not red still, we have blood vessels, but orange and pink. What color should I use? Pink. All right then. Moving into the fourth and final stage, which is the bone remodeling stage. And like I said, bones are always remodeling. Our bones are always adjusting to our life. Even if you work out, not only do your muscles get stronger, but your bones also get stronger. And if you're not, if you decide to stop working out, then the strong bones aren't needed, and so they'll lose mass. So all the time, your whole life, your bones are constantly adjusting and remodeling to what's going on with your life. So like I said, we're going to draw this differently. This is not a broken bone anymore. This is a fully healed bone. It's not back to brand new yet, but it is a healed bone. So watch how I draw this. No fracture, but where the fracture was, I do that. See, there's a little swollen area? That was not an accident. And my fracture was oblique, so I make my little swollen areas oblique as well. Like that. So here's a fully healed bone. Not brand new, not remodeled, but healed. Okay, so see, the fracture was across here. So this bone, we got to draw in our blood vessels. At this point, we can get rid of our extra blood vessels for the most part. Now, there may be some extras still in there just because we grew new blood vessels. We may not get rid of all of them right away. So we may have a few extra blood vessels in there, but all those extras that we drew, most of that's gonna atrophy and go away. Okay. So the bone, before it broke, was like this. Let's put in some dotted lines showing where the bone once was and where there is now extra bone. And the body's going to remodel this and get rid of that excess. That extra bone is going to go away. And so that's what's happening here during this stage. The woven bone that we created during the bony callus stage is going to be replaced by compact bone. Which is what the bone originally was. And then the bone is going to get remodeled. This might take years. This stage can be years long. But at the end of it, if everything lined up just right, if everything did what it's supposed to do, there will be no evidence that it was ever broken at all. Even like an expert, even an osteologist, there will be no scar. It's our only body tissue that can do that. And like I said, it may take years for that to happen. But osteoclasts are going to come in and dissolve that bone and totally remodel it. That's the primary cell at work here. Remember, osteoclasts eat bone. They dissolve bone, and then that bone gets recycled. Pretty cool. Any questions about the bone remodeling stage? Okay, I'm going to zoom out to the whole thing so we can see what we've done. And I've got a lot of space here in the middle. And we saved that space for review. What color should we do the review in? Should we go with black? Navy?
No.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah? Navy. That's blue. It looks black, but it's blue. What? This is blue. It doesn't matter what color you use. That's blue. See, here's my black. Okay, cool. So this is a little segment I like to call Cells at Work. Have you all seen that show? Cells at Work? It's an anime. You seen that? It's an anime about blood cells. It was on Netflix. I don't know if it still is. It's really good. It's an anime about blood cells. The little red blood cells are so cute. And the white blood cells, the different kinds, are always out there fighting off bad guys and stuff, all anime style. It's really cool. It's really well done. I used to show it in class. Middle-ish, yeah. All right, so you tell me about it. What cells are at work here in the bone healing process? What cells, what individual cells are working on getting that bone fixed up? Phagocytes, okay. We mentioned phagocytes. Phagocytes are white blood cells. And they're going to clean up messes. Their job is to come in and they're going to eat any messes that aren't supposed to be there. That includes dead or damaged human cells, and it includes invading bacteria. Cool. What other cells are there at work? They're written on your paper. Fibroblasts? Fibroblasts make cartilage. In this case, fibrocartilage. We have different kinds of cartilage in our body. These make the cartilage, and in the case of the broken bone, they are making fibrocartilage. By the way, this process mirrors us growing our bones as fetuses. It's the same process. Our bones originally, as a fetus, are cartilage, fibrocartilage, and then that gets replaced by spongy bone, and then woven bone and compact bone. It's the same way we grew our bones when we were wee little fetuses. Fibroblasts really make collagen and elastin, which we've talked about before a few times, and that is mostly what cartilage is made of: collagen, elastin, and a bunch of water. Okay, there's two more on your paper. What else? Osteoclasts. These dissolve bone. Any excess bone that the body made, like this, all this stuff, this extra, is going to get dissolved. But they also dissolve messes. Originally, when we had little bone fragments from the injury, they will dissolve those as well. Okay, good. And then the fourth one. Osteoblasts. Osteoblasts are baby bone cells or juvenile bone cells, immature bone cells. And they make bone. When the bone comes out, it's a liquid. And then it hardens into what we know of as bone. Kind of like concrete is a liquid type of slurry, and then it hardens. Okay, now what I haven't told you about is the fifth kind. Okay, osteoblasts, what they do is they surround themselves in bone. They paint bone all the way around themselves until they can't make any more, or they'll smash themselves. And at that point, they have to stop making bone, or else they'll smash themselves. And at that point, we call them osteocytes, which just means bone cell, right? Bone cell. And these are mature bone cells. Once they're done making bone, we call them a mature bone cell. They don't just die. They don't just stop doing things. They're connected to other bone cells through little bitty tunnels in the bone called canaliculi, and they're just going to communicate with each other and help maintain bone health. It's about blood cells. Anyway. Questions? Comments? Concerns?